Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi and welcome to Midweek Magic, where I want you to grow your collection by winning 2 free rare or better ICRs each and every week. This week's Midweek Magic is an old concept now under a new name. We're going to be chimilling like a villain as we get an emblem that allows us to discover 6 at the end of, well, each and every turn. So we are going to dial this up to 11 the way only we can. But before we get into all that, this whole Midweek Magic thing has become a bit of a tradition here at the Stronghold, and it all started with our crack team of researchers discovering that we were the only YouTube channel making consistent, proactive, and timely Midweek Magic coverage. And here we are years later, and it appears that we're still the only ones out there doing it for the budget community. So be sure to subscribe to the Planeswalker Stronghold so that we can be here for you every chance we get. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. So, hey, I heard you like to discover, so I made you a deck that adds Cascade to your Discover for, well, what is probably going to be ridiculousness. Just starting with the mana base, we kept it pretty basic as we very often do. Mostly mountains, 8 and 2 forest. We also have 1 each of the hidden lands that allow you to sacrifice it and discover 4 in its own right. To be honest, these are probably in here more for the memes than they are for actual value. This is probably a win more card in this particular deck. From there, we've got an assortment of this year's dual color, red-green dual lands, all in rare. Thran Portal, which is my pet rare card for the year. If you don't have one, you probably should. That's all I'm going to say about that. Captivating Crossroads was my Alchemy rare land card for the year, but of course, since this is a historic build, we can play it here too. And of course, Fabled Passage is one of those fantastic, multi-function, very versatile, rare dual lands. Again, if you don't have one for your Eternal collections, you probably should. We're also running 4 of the dual modal face lands, spell things, Spike-Filled Hazard, Revitalizing Repast, and Stump Stomp are all 3 cards that everyone should have in their collection. You can cascade into these and cast them as the spell for free. Or you can move it to your hand if you need the land. And for this particular one, Bridgeworks Battle is pretty darn good because it's a nice little boost when you need it, and also a fight spell as well, and of course also a potential land. Now, we're going to do things a little backwards here and start at the upper end. We've got 2 copies of Trumpeting Carnosaur. This gives you a 3 mana lightning bolt option for early game, and then a big old Discover 5 7/6 trample creature for late game. Of course, we cannot discover into this off of our Chimil. It's just too high of a casting cost. In the same bracket, we've got a 7 mana 6/5 reach trample with Cascade. The difference with Cascade, when you cast this spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile. The idea here is you have to cast it, whereas Discover, you can kind of discover into a discover into a discover. So Cascade does kind of end the fun, but generally they're worth doing. 7 mana 6/5 reach trample, good enough for me. Now we get into the territory of cards that we can Chimil into. Daring Discovery, of course, allows creatures to not block. Weird way for me to say that. It makes creatures so they can't block. It also discovers 4, which means it will then shift further down the line. Similarly, Geological Appraiser is a 5 mana 3/2 body that discovers 3. Walk with the Ancestors is a nice little spell. We're only running 2 copies of it, much like Daring Discovery. But you get to return 1 target permanent card from your graveyard into your hand. So if you have to cast that Trumpeting Carnosaur early as removal, you can always get it back. And of course, this discovers 4 in its own right. So it's going to allow you to get back that thing from your graveyard so that your opponent will ultimately have to deal with it again. But then it's going to discover 4 for even more value. We've got a single copy of Quintarius Khond in here, the legendary Planeswalker. He is 5 mana, so you can Chimil into this, which is good because we're not running white mana per se. It's -3, and the main reason it's in here is because it allows you to discover 4, and then on a following turn you can create tokens and things like that, and the fun goes on and on and on. But really just Chimiling into this and then hitting your discover 4 on the next turn is pretty awesome. From there, we've got our 4 drops, Curator of Sun's Creation. Whenever you discover again. This ability triggers only once each turn. Then we've also got Throes of Chaos, another 4 mana. This cascades, and it also allows you to retrace it, so you can cast it from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. And the thing about this discovering and cascading thing is very quickly all of your top deck draws are going to statistically become land. So having some of these in your graveyard allows the fun to continue. Speaking of that, Monsters of Vortex, another 4 mana, this time an enchantment. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, discover X, where X is that spell's mana cost. So again, like if you have that in play, then you can cast your Trumpeting Carnosaur, it will cascade and find potentially any of these other cards. Same with the Allosaurus. Of course, the poster child for Cascade is Bloodbraid Elf, 4 mana, 3/2 with haste. It cascades and does all kinds of funny things. I think everybody right now is familiar with Atali's Favor, our favorite 3 mana discover 3. Gives our otherwise fairly decent creatures to begin with +1/+1 and has trample. It's good stuff. And then the only spells that we have in this deck that do not play multifunction, either as also being a land or contributing to the Discover and Cascade, is 4 copies of Shock and 4 copies of Lightning Strike. These are in here because not only are they great to Cascade Discover into, because you can use them as removal against your opponent's creatures, but both of these can target planeswalkers or target your opponent in the face. So you never really get into a place where casting it isn't the right decision. About the only corner case I could see is if you need to put it in your hand so that you can double team like Shock and Lightning Strike to take out your opponent's 5 defense Sheldred later the next turn or something like that. But pretty darn corner case there. And all in all, this deck is pretty silly. I ran some various simulations with it, and sometimes you end up with like 2, 3, 4 permanents on the field at the end of your first turn. So it can really be quite dumb, and most people don't stick around for that. You're probably going to see some people quit on this once you start cascading your whole deck out within a couple of turns. It's pretty remarkable. And hey, just in case you didn't catch all that, Matt would like you to know that the deck list that we discussed in this video is going to have a link down in the doobly-doo to take you over to Aetherhub, along with a link to any other alternative lists that you might wish to consider. He only asks that you give it a little thumbs up when you're over there checking out the deck list. And I plan on live playing this event on Wednesday at 11 a.m. over on my Twitch channel, so definitely stop in and check it out. Because the Stronghold is so much more than just a YouTube channel, and you can find links to all of our other social media outlets in our profile. Because at the end of the day, we're all budget players. And as a community, we're stronger together. So like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all those things
to show a little love. It's appreciated more than you know.